Hello, welcome back to usethismusic.com. Not only do we like to help artists and producers with actual sync jobs, but we like to offer some advice from people who do it 24/7, such as Tony Brown.
Hello, I'll try my best.
Producer extraordinaire, yes.
Appreciate that, thank you.
So if you just tell the folks what it is you do full time and perhaps some little trophies you've got.
Yeah, well, I'm a producer and a songwriter. I do some mixing as well and some mastering, so I kind of try and cover all bases with what I do. But I work a lot in the sync world, so that is music produced for adverts, for TV, for companies and for brands and things like that. But I also work with artists and bands and groups to produce like singles, EPs, things like that. But yeah, I've been the majority of my time is spent working on sync projects, and so for me, I'm in a stage now where I'm kind of stepping into doing some more work with artists, because it's something that I really enjoy. Working in the studio with other musicians is a real passion of mine, and I'm able to do that through sync too. But it's nice to kind of step into like looking at one song and really focusing on getting that, you know, if it was a single, for example, getting that song sounding perfect for the artist.
Great. So how did you start out? It's like a ladder to as you are now? Yeah.
Oh, if I start right at the beginning, I mean, I was, and I'm sure this is the same for a lot of people, in bands when I was in my teens, and I was very much into, you know, the rock scene, and that was amazing. Like, I've always got some fond memories of being in bands, and I think you do learn so much from that stage in your music career. And it might not feel like a career at that point, but you know, looking back, definitely did learn a lot. And then I studied music production in college and university actually. Just kind of got bitten by that production bug, because I've always liked writing the music, and so when I was introduced to production, it was a tool to be able to make whatever sounds I had in my head, whatever ideas I had in my head, actually bring them into reality using the different tools that I have. And so I've just focused on that from like that college level and then into university as well. And then from there, I kind of stepped into doing it part-time, a little bit on the side, because I think everybody goes through that phase where, you know, you come out of university and it's a bit of a balancing act, and you don't necessarily find your feet straight away. And I did, and I always kind of had music on the side, and I was still in bands and doing a bit of music production. But I had other things going on too. And, you know, just got to a stage where I had to sit down and think, what do I actually really want to achieve, and what do I want to do for the rest of my life? And it was a leap of faith, really, you know, because you don't know if it's going to play out. And I think it was, in my mind, I thought, you know, this is going to be a bit of a long game. It's not going to happen immediately. Yeah. So I just kind of jumped into it, really, and just said, I'm going to do this full time. And it was, you know, it was tricky first starting out, you know, how to navigate that. But I'm here now, and I'm producing full time, and it's amazing to be able to come to work and do what you love every day. It's like, I'm so grateful for that, to be able to do that. And yeah, that's the stage that I'm at now, and I'm producing full time, which is just incredible, really.
That's great. So people who might follow a similar path to you may get to a stumbling point where they're really good at what they do, but then how do you actually get those syncs? How do you network with these agents, publishing companies? How do you do that? How did you do that?
Well, I was pretty lucky in the fact that I basically got an album together. I'd done my research, and I'd kind of like looked at what's the best way to do this. And I think the first question you've got to ask yourself is, what do you enjoy in music? So if you're a producer sitting there and you like working with artists and you want to go in that direction, it might be a bit of a different kind of approach to if you wanted to you know, work on sync. I think the reason that I like sync, and the answer to that question when I asked myself it was, I like to write in lots of different styles of music, and that really appeals to me, and it still does now. And so sync was like a really interesting way to be able to do that and be able to monetize what I can do. So my approach was basically to write an album. So I wrote an instrumental album actually, and it was like a hip hop album, and I had like 10 tracks in there, and I wrote them specifically for sync. kind of when you're writing a track for sync, it's a slightly different approach to it as if you were creating a beat for an artist, for example. You've got to think about the arrangement of the track, and when a sync library gets it through, is it going to be easy for them to pitch to other people? Is it going to have areas in the track where it changes and it always stays interesting? And is it going to have parts in the track where they can cut it and edit it and use it in TV and use it in like ads and things? So it was really just about like understanding that. That was a very different approach to what I'd done up until that point. So it was like understanding that and putting that into the music. And once I was happy and I had 10 tracks and I had a really good solid album, I sent that out to a few music libraries, and one got back in touch and they were signed like a deal, and they took on that album into their catalogue. And funnily enough, that is the exact same library that I have a publishing agreement with today. And that's I think that's probably one of the most important things is building the connections, finding, kind of doing your research a little bit and finding a music library or a publisher that you really like the vibe of. Listen to their catalogue, listen to the music that they've got going on. They might have some artists in the roster that you like. Finding one that fits you and build a connection with them. Build some good, strong connections, rather than kind of spreading yourself out like loads and sending off to a lot of people. Just maybe pick like 3 or 4 that you really like and persevere with that. I found that approach worked really well for me. And I have worked with other publishers and like other labels. Like I actually did a competition on, I know a lot of people use Splice. So on Splice, I don't actually know if they host any competitions anymore, but they did a competition which was with Universal Production Music. And so I won that competition and got like, I've done some tracks for them and had a publishing agreement with them and still have some songs with them in their catalogue too. But it was just kind of, for me, it was just about finding a library, finding a label that I really liked that rapport with, that were feeding me opportunities as well, and kind of nurturing me and helping me out where I needed help. Because I think there's a lot to think about when you step into like the music industry, and it kind of, you've always got to have that passion with the music, but there is a lot of other things that kind of come into your peripheral vision that you've got to understand a little bit. So the publisher that I'm with now really helped me understand all of those different areas and almost like mentored me in a way. So I feel confident now and know what I know through their knowledge.
That's good advice. Excellent. As you mentioned briefly about monetization as well.
Yeah.
Can you tell people a little bit about possibly what metadata is and how to go about actually making money, as it were?
Yeah. Well, metadata is essentially like, if you were to create an album or a track, it's basically all the data associated with that track. So it's actually really important especially when it comes to sync, or if your music's in a catalogue, because when the people are searching in that catalogue and they're looking for, they might be searching particular keywords, making sure that is linked into your track. So when they do search it pops straight up. And it's just having a good understanding of what your music is, and also a good understanding of what people are looking for. And I think that kind of comes down to looking at what is being used at the moment, on TV, on adverts, on commercials, and just kind of keeping your ear to the ground and seeing what styles of music are really in demand and are being used. And you can cater if you're open to doing lots of different styles like me, you can cater what you're writing to that, and that also keeps things fun, keeps things fresh for you. And I think that's one of the big reasons that I like sync. But in terms of monetizing things, it's a case of understanding what income streams you have when it comes to sync. So in terms of understanding that there's upfront fees there to be had, but there's also some back-end royalties that can be made as well. And I think the back-end royalties is kind of something that can be tricky to navigate at the start, and it does take time. It takes time for that back-end to come through. But if you continuously are feeding tracks and feeding libraries and putting tracks out there, you'll start to see that back-end and the royalties that you're receiving from whatever society you're in, they start to become very, very consistent. And that is something that can be very nice because it's a passive income essentially. And so I think with sync and with library music, it's you've got to have that quality there, but you've also got to have a good work mentality. That means that you're always feeding your catalogue. You know, you're always putting tracks out there, because that quantity of tracks is going to put you in a really good position to make sure, you know, that you're going to be getting some good back end and some good royalties, you know, rather than focusing on, you know, trying to get things perfect and trying to, you know, get this one amazing track, which could be incredible and it could be perfect for an ad out there, could absolutely be that, but, you know, you've got to keep the cogs going. You know, you've just got to keep working and keep creating new fresh music, because as well, you know, trends kind of change, and styles of music that are in demand, they change as well. So it's just about always staying on your toes and following that. And if you can do that, and if you can stay consistent, once you have got a good link with maybe a music library or a publisher, if you can continue to feed them the tracks that the clients are wanting and that they're needing, you're in a really good position to start making some good money and be able to do what I'm doing and do it full time. It's definitely something that's doable.
Yeah, good advice, excellent. So about remaining current and keeping current. I know you've been involved with some like songwriting workshops.
Yes.
Like residentials.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about that? Is that something you can set up yourself, or was that through a company, an agency?
If you talk about songwriting camps, there for me, I know that there's a lot of songwriting camps out there that anyone can sign up to, really. But I did get some great opportunities through my publisher that linked me up with writing camps, and there's some amazing ones, and I love going to them, because I feel like I'm a sponge. I always like to be a sponge. I like to keep learning, and I'll always want to keep learning fresh new ideas. And I think if you throw yourself into the deep end a little bit, I think that happens a lot quicker. And so the songwriting camps that I've been on, it's kind of like trial by fire. You're going in there with some just incredible talent, but if you're always willing to learn and remain open, I'll just stop that, and remain open and take on some advice from other people, you grow so much. There's, like I said, there's a lot of writing camps out there, and the ones that I've been to have been abroad. So I've been to a camp in LA, which was great. That was set up by my publisher. I've been to a camp in Sweden, in Norway, and I've got one coming up later on in the year, and that's in Belgium, which is associated with writing songs for Eurovision, believe it or not, which is going to be great. So yeah, there is a lot out there. If you're looking for a songwriting camp, you've got to obviously have, a good back catalogue, and you've got to have a show reel or some tracks you can really show and say, this is what I do. You don't necessarily have to have like any credits, I would say, or you don't have to say I work with this big artist or anything like that, but you've got to be confident and step forward and just say, this is what I can do, kind of pitch yourself to them, and I think just approach them, just being yourself, and show them what you've got, and it can definitely work out. And I always just encourage anyone to do like you say, there's these songwriting residentials and camps and stuff, because it's all about networking too, and the people that you meet on those camps. And I'm working with a lot of them to this day, still songwriting with them, and it's great, because for all those camps might be geared more towards writing for an artist project. There has been instances where I've written with an artist and top liner and another songwriter, and I might sort of like hit them up to work on a sync track that I'm working on, and they might do some top lining on my track. So it's just nice how these different sort of areas to you as a producer, how they can kind of feed each other, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And
they can kind of interlock once you start to build some good connections up. And that's been something that I've learned along the way. It's definitely about having a good network of other musicians and producers and songwriters that you can kind of work with and collaborate with. That's what it's all about.
Oh, that's brilliant. Just quickly finish off as well. Obviously you do full time.
Yeah.
What's your go-to gear? Like what gear do you use? Things you couldn't live without.
Oh, I mean, honestly, I have a very, very, very simple setup. And there's a lot of gear that I do use in the box. There's a lot of like sounds that I'll use that I have. But I would say the main thing is always have a mic to hand, have a good mic to hand, because you just don't know where inspiration is going to strike. So it's always nice to just have a mic that's set up and ready to go, so you can grab a guitar or whatever, you can pull the mic up and you can start recording. But I think it's just about, in terms of like stuff that I use in the box, it's just about, because I do things in lots of different styles, knowing what to go to.
Yeah.
And so like the software that I'll tend to use is it's pretty like, it's like quite wide in terms of what I can use it for. So like I'm like working on a track at the moment which is very funk and soul oriented, so I might have a particular drum library that I'll go to that I know is going to be great for that. So it's about knowing what your styles you write in and finding stuff in the box that you can go straight to that's going to inspire you. And then also, just like I say, having a mic to hand. I can't live without a mic. Definitely can't live without a mic. Bass, I love like playing bass as well. I play bass and guitar, so I always like to start a track out with maybe a different instrument. So if I was in the last track I was writing, if I started out with a guitar, I'll pick up a bass for the next one and say, how is this going to inspire us differently. Honestly, one of my favorite tools though is there's a plugin called it's by Output, and that's called Arcade. That is a fantastic plugin, because I know a lot of people use Splice and they'll get the sounds from that, and I'll use Splice for single sounds if there's like a certain drum sound, some simple things like if there's a kick or a snare that I want, we'll call them one shots. And that's amazing. But Arcade's very, very good for finding quite organic sounds that sound. I mean, obviously they've been recorded and sampled, so the sounds though are very raw. So they're not over the top. They don't kind of lean to one particular style as such. So you can really manipulate them and produce them and make them sound, sculpt them to your song a little bit better. And I always use that, and it's a great way to start a track out and get some inspiration flowing if you haven't got an instrument in hand. If I've got an instrument in hand, I'll always pick that up.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm not in the studio, and if I just want to kind of like, if I'm writing something and I've got a particular idea in mind, like I'm writing something funky, I know I can go straight into that plugin and I can find a little guitar lick that can start off an idea. And there's been times that's inspired a song, and it might not even end up in the final product, but the point is it's inspired you and it's got the ball rolling. So that's a really cool tool. But yeah, other than that, I've got a super basic setup. It's just mic, having instruments around us, and knowing what tools I've got on my MacBook and knowing what sounds to go to straight away depending on what project I'm working on.
That's good. Great advice there. So thank you very much again, Tony
I appreciate
Brown.
it. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you got some great advice there, and look forward to hearing what everyone can make in the future.
Yeah, definitely me too. Yeah, thank you.